an exciting day today. Sorry for yelling, I am excited. Welcome to my new kitchen. Welcome to the new and improved Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. It has been an interesting week as we've been setting up not just our new home but also our new workspace as well. So we're not quite there yet, you know, we're still living in this state of chaos. Literally a state of chaos, but I feel, hi Kathy, good to see you, my darling. I do feel that we're making really good progress, and that's what it's all about, right? Little baby steps. I know I did a class yesterday about how stressed I was, a Q&A. Things have slightly changed. I am in a better place, and I think that's because I got to hang out with you guys for an hour yesterday, and you made me laugh. So thank you for that. So today's class in my new kitchen. First, I'm going to show you. Let's have a little look around. I can't show you everything because the stuff that you can't see on the other side of the camera is still in a little bit of a state of chaos. But I tell you what I will do is I'll take some photos, because this video that we're doing here on my phone on Facebook just doesn't do this wonderful kitchen justice. All right, are you ready? So I'm going to step back so you can sort of see. So first thing you'll notice is that I actually go have a gas cooktop. Now, I'm not a fan of gas, let me tell you this. If I had my choice, it would be induction every single time. So if you're even thinking about building a kitchen, or thinking about building a new space for you, or changing your appliances, please, if you haven't already, have a good look at induction. Have a look at induction cooking. It is amazing. Hi, Michelle. Good to see you as well. And to Christine. So I'm giving you the tour now. So gas cooktop, five gas cooktops there. Like I said, it's not as fast as induction. It's definitely harder to clean than induction. It's not as precise as induction. Enough said, right? But you know what? It's there, and I'm happy with it. This is the noisiest thing I've ever heard in my life. It goes full on, but that's okay because it really does remove all the smells out of the kitchen. The smells you don't want, some smells you do want. When it comes to our ginger nuts that we're doing today, this is a smell that you want. All right, so I'm going to go this way, just a little bit to the side. There is the sink over there, but if you look out that window, that's the ocean out there. That's our dining room, and that's the ocean. How cool is that? So I get my little window here. We've got the lounge just to one side. We've got dining room right in front of us, and then I have the ocean, which is cool. And for the first time in, I think, 4 years, I actually have the space to put some of my pretty stuff up there. Look. So I've got gorgeous, gorgeous stuff all up there as well. So I'm loving the space. I'm loving what I built yesterday or the day before. I actually put in my own kitchen island because originally this house didn't have a kitchen island. I was like, you know what? I'm going to put one in. So, would you like to join me down on my bench? Because we need to make some biscuits, don't we? We need to make some ginger nuts. So, come on down to my bench. Have a look at my island. Like I said, I'm going to take some photos because this is the coolest island that, it's seriously cool. All right. Wait till you see the cooking surface, or the bench surface. Yay! As you can see, I now have a wooden island, which I love. I just think it's gorgeous. It is huge, and yes, I built this with these two hands. I built this kitchen island, so I'm pretty excited about that. Pretty excited. Now, I think we need to do some cooking, and this is the other thing about calling it the island. It's got open shelves, so I can literally just have all my stuff under there. I've got baking paper, I've got paper towels, I've got everything that I need to cook. And now here we are. Let's do some cooking. Let's make some ginger nuts. Now these ginger nuts are a recipe that I created because I needed some comforting. And I was like, you know what really makes me comfortable? Ginger nuts. So hence why I made this recipe. Of course, you guys know me. It's dairy-free, sugar-free, and it's also gluten-free as well. Grain-free too, which is really cool. So lots of frees, but not free from flavor, which is wonderful. So grab yourself up a bowl, the first thing you want to do. Oh, and by the way, this recipe, if you don't want to write things down frantically, is this recipe we will post a PDF tomorrow, so Sunday. We'll post that on Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. So if you want to have your own copy to print off, you can have that tomorrow. So the first thing I'm going to start with, I've got my almond meal in there, and we're going to add in 140 grams, which is around about 5 ounces, just under 5 ounces of almond meal or almond flour. I quite like, when it comes to the ginger nuts, I quite like this sort of blonde version, the one without the husks. But if you If you can't find one without the husks, then that's fine as well. I got a little bit too much, so I'm just gonna take some out. So 140 grams, which I said is around about 5 ounces of almond flour. The other type of flour that we're going to be adding in here today is coconut flour. So coconut flour, oops, I'll get rid of that. Put it down here on my shelves. Coconut flour we only need coconut flour. Where are we? 20 grams, which is about a heaped tablespoon, but definitely weigh it so you get your quantities correct, because you don't want to add too much coconut flour, because coconut flour is a very absorbent flour and your cookies or your biscuits might turn out a bit dry. So you want to avoid that if you can. So that goes in there. The other dry ingredients that we're going to pop in there, we have a teaspoon of baking soda or bicarbonated soda. We're going to do a pinch of salt, and I'm just using Himalayan. You could use a little mineral salt if you like. And the last dry ingredient is, of course, our ginger, which is going to give our biscuits the most wonderful spice, which is fantastic. And I do like the warmingness that ginger gives. And we're going to put a decent amount of ginger in here. So ground ginger, we're going to do 1.5 tablespoons of ground ginger is going in there as well. I'm going to show you later on how you can actually spice it up even further if you like it even spicier. So that's the dry ingredients. Just give it a bit of a mix. Just like that. Now the next thing that we're going to do, maybe a little bit surprising, I'll put that over there, maybe a little bit surprising to some people, maybe. We're actually going to take up fibre syrup, and we're going to create something a little bit different with our fibre syrup. So into just a little saucepan. Now this fibre syrup that you see here, this is my fibre syrup, as in Bridget's Healthy Kitchen fibre syrup. So this fibre syrup is 100% pure chicory, so it's basically the syrup version of inulin. So it's prebiotic, very, very low in calories, won't spike your insulin levels, it's a dietary fibre, all those wonderful things that you know inulin is. The fibre syrup that we're going to start selling, hopefully in about 2 weeks, is 100% pure chicory. It is one of the only pure fibre syrups on the market today. So you will see that advertised real soon. I have ordered the, it doesn't come in this. This is its temporary home, by the way. This is my temporary home for my fibre syrup. I have ordered the squeeze bottles, so it makes it really easy for you to measure out. And for this recipe, we're going to start with 2 tablespoons of fibre syrup. Now, in the meantime, before you are able to purchase this, you can still use fibre syrup that may be available through other stockists. You can still use it, nothing wrong with that, but you just need to watch this step really, really closely. And in fact, I'm going to put into the recipe that this step here is actually optional, because it can be a little bit daunting if you've never done this thing before. And what we're actually going to be doing with this fibre syrup, with our fibre syrup, is we're going to be creating a caramel. Yes, you can create a caramel with my fibre syrup. I'm not sure about the other fibre syrups on the market. It may just burn, but with my one, we can create caramel with my fibre syrup. Isn't it amazing? Someone just asked, do I ship to Queensland? Heck yeah! I totally ship to Queensland. I ship to Perth. We're going to be shipping to New Zealand as well. So New Zealand, Australia, you guys are the test market for our fibre syrup. It's going to come in 500 ml squeeze bottles. How good is it? Pure prebiotic. All right, over to my stove. I don't even know how to turn it on yet. Get the wrong one. Oh, that's the wrong one. We'll get there eventually. There we go. All right. Okay, it's on. It's interesting, I have spent so many years, like literally probably the last 10 years, I have only worked on induction. To go back to gas, I feel like I'm a little bit sort of, handcuffed, like, oh, how does it work again? And the thing that freaks me out about gas is that the handles get hot. I'm not used to that. Handles don't heat up on induction. So I have my trusty tea towel just to make sure I don't burn myself. So our fibre syrup is now on, and I've got that on, come up here, I've got that on a high heat. But I am going to watch it. And the most important thing you can do at this point when it comes to creating caramel is like making caramel out of sugar, right? You cannot walk away from it. Trust me on this. It will turn to caramel like that. If you think, oh, I'll just go over here, I'll pick up my phone and I'll do something, and you're not being active with your cooking, there is every chance that that fibre syrup will then burn, and it won't be caramel, it'll be too dark and bitter, because that's what happens when caramel goes, when a type of sweetness goes too far, it has a burnt flavour to it, and you will waste your fibre syrup. So when it comes to this, and I'm checking, when it comes to this step here, make sure you are an active part of the journey, because you don't want to ruin or burn your beautiful fibre syrup. Because what we're going to be doing this, and I said it's a little bit unusual, and I stumbled across this method quite by accident, and it literally is going to be a game changer for us, because we don't have to buy, you know, a gold fibre syrup or a light one. We can do it with our own fibre syrup. So right now I do have it starting to bubble, which is great. I want to show you guys. Yeah, can you see? Oh, I've got it there. It's just starting to bubble, perfect, but it's not going caramel. And this is why you have to be really active, as you're watching what's happening here. And what I'm looking for is that caramel colour. What is a caramel colour? It's the colour of caramel, you know, so it's that kind of light golden, not dark golden. Remember, when it goes too dark, it gets bitter. So keep an eye on it. Once it turns, it goes really quickly. So hence why I say you need to be really active when it comes to this stage. Give it a little bit of a swirl if you want to, a bit of a swirl. But do not step away from the pot. Could be disastrous. It could be absolutely disastrous. Oh, you'd waste it, and the last thing you want to do is waste anything. Alright, it's looking pretty good. I've got no colour there yet. I'm going to move my bowl closer to me. I'll show you why in a second. This is going to be where the caramel is going to go. It's going to go straight into there. Believe it or not. Well, believe it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Alright, so we're still looking for that colour. It's taking its time, but that's alright. What's happening now, as the fibre syrup is beginning to bubble, we're actually cooking away the moisture, and that's the steam that you see coming off it. There's not a lot of moisture in fibre syrup, hence why it doesn't take long for it to turn into caramel. And I'll show you guys exactly what that looks like. It's starting to go now on the edges. It'll always go on the edges first. Just give it a little bit of a swirl. And I'm doing this all on high heat, remember? All on high heat. And the only reason I'm doing it on high heat is because I'm literally hovering like a helicopter over it to make sure that we don't burn. And it's probably the hardest part of this recipe. Everything else is really easy. Hence why I say this is an optional addition to your ginger nuts. Up to you. Alright, we're getting close. I think what we're probably looking for is around about, and it's all depending on what sort of cooktop you use. My induction will probably cut time in half of making caramel, so instead of it being, you know, we've been here for say maybe 3 or 4 minutes, it might only take 2 minutes. So allow 2 to 5 minutes for caramel making. Oh, here we go. It happened quick. See, I was talking and it happened. I'm going to pull it off now. Can you guys see? Can you see? Can you see? It has started to turn to caramel colour. There is still enough heat locked in there that it's continuing to go to that caramel colour. So come back down here. We need to move a little bit quickly. And you can see you see the caramel? So we have the perfect caramel. I even pulled it off, you know, probably 10 seconds before you would imagine that it's actually become a caramel. So hence why I say optional when it comes to this part, because for some people this all may be just too much like hard work, and I get that. Now the other thing about gas, which I'm still getting used to, funny for a chef, I cooked on gas all my chef career. Since I've been using induction, I feel like, well, how do you work this? The thing with induction, you take the pot off, there's no power going through. I never have actually officially turn anything off. With gas, I've got to remember to do that. So with my pot here, oh, there you go. Now you can kind of see the colour that I got, yeah? The leftover, the residue. All you need to do to get rid of that is just soak it in water and it will come off. You don't have to do any hard scrubbing. Even though this is going to go hard, as soon as I add water back into it, it's going to go lovely and soft. So just soak that with some water. And trust me, you won't have to worry about it being hard to clean. So now that we've got our caramel in our mixture, I'm just going to toss it in there. And what's now happened is the caramel has started to harden and cool, which is the really awesome part of this recipe. So I'm going to take out these pieces of, you can see, look, we've made caramel. I'm going to take them out and just going to leave them there. Because we're actually going to chop these up when they're really hard and add them into our biscuits. But literally, we have made a sugar-free, prebiotic, crazy, right? Dietary fiber infused caramel. That's got ginger all over it. That's pretty yummy as well. So that comes out there. I mean, you guys can imagine the amazing recipes that we're going to be able to make using my fiber syrup because it's pure. And unfortunately, there are other brands on the market where their fiber syrup is not pure chicory. It's more like a sweetener. It's made up of all sorts of other business, whereas this is just obviously made from chicory. Right, just going to set that aside. That's going to cool down. We're going to finish off the dough, well, what's going to become a dough. When I get serious now, pull up my sleeves. I'm making a well in the middle of my mixture. It's always good to do if you're doing dry and then you're incorporating sort of, I suppose, the wet ingredients as you make this bit of a well. So I'm going to go back to fiber syrup because this is our sweetener. And of course, as you guys know, when it comes to fiber syrup, it's unlike maple. It's nothing like honey. It is not going to spike your glucose, your GI levels. It is not going to increase your blood glucose as well. I'm adding in 2.5 tablespoons of fiber syrup into there. I'm also adding in, now this is the part where I said if you want to spike the ginger, the spiciness, this is when you can add some very finely minced fresh ginger is going to go in there as well. That's up to you. Depends if you're making this more for people who are not used to having I suppose they're not spicy food, but maybe they're used to really artificially sweet biscuits. You may want to leave that gingery part out. If you're making it for kids, it definitely has more of an adult kick to it, but by no means unpleasant. It is like, I would suggest, go for that. Do the fresh ginger. It is incredible. Absolutely incredible. So that goes in there. I'm also going to add in a little bit of coconut oil is going in there. Just a tablespoon coconut oil. It's going to go in there as well. And the very last ingredient that we're going to add is just a little bit of apple cider vinegar. That's going to, because we've got the baking soda in there, the apple cider vinegar, the bit of vinegar is going to help to activate the baking soda, which is great. So it needs a bit of acid. That's why we're adding a bit of acid, and we don't need much. It's just literally half a teaspoon. So maybe a little bit more. Just that much. Half a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar then goes into our bowl. Grabbing back up my spoon, I'm just going to give this a bit of mix. It's not hard, right? You don't need anything special to do this. I mean, the most special thing you need is just a bowl and a spoon. That's it. You can even do it on a gas cooktop if you have to. Alright, so we're just creating the dough here, making sure that coconut oil, you can add the coconut oil, it can be added either in its solid form, which you saw me do, or if you're living in a warmer country, warmer climate, and it's liquid, by all means just add it in as liquid. It actually does not matter, because once you do this stage here, which is the mixing of the dough, once you do this stage here, it doesn't matter if it's liquid or if it's solid. So that is looking like a good dough. It's kind of crumbly, but trust me, it will all come together. So back to our caramel that we created. Come back down here, caramel. It is, and look, ready? Can you hear that? Oh, I'm making a mess, but it's hard. You've made candy. I know, it's so awesome. All right, so just taking up my knife, I'm just gonna roughly cut through our caramel. Well, I'm gonna call it candy now, because we've actually, like I said, we've made candy. Cut through it roughly, and then we're gonna add this into our ginger nuts as well, which is super duper exciting, because as you can imagine, now that we've got these beautiful pieces of caramel in there, and yes, it tastes like caramel. It absolutely does. Once you're eating through your cooked ginger nut, you get the most amazing little hits of caramel as well as ginger. In fact, I should probably rename these caramel ginger nuts, because that's definitely what we've got when it comes to those little hints of caramel, which is wonderful. All right, so give it a bit of a stir. Make sure we get it all off our spoon. We want to use it all up. This is where you're going to get your hands involved. You want to get your hands involved in the process. I love it when hands get involved, because hands involved means good things are coming, right? So clean hands, and what we're going to do now is just give it a bit of a squish together. And squishing it together, you can already see that my dough is beginning to form, which is super cool. Exactly what we want. So give it just a bit of a squish. Now if you find that your dough's a bit crumbly, just add a tablespoon of water and then give it a bit of a squish. It shouldn't be crumbly though, because there's not as much coconut. Like I said, the only way it could get crumbly or dry is if you add too much coconut flour. So if you're thinking about substituting flours in this recipe, just be aware that when you do that and your dough's you're not able to do that with your dough, what you need to do is just add a little bit of water, about a tablespoon at a time, and then mix it with your hands. And once it gets to look like a log or a sausage, you know that you're at a really good consistency when it comes to your dough. So you're able to do that. In fact, what we're going to do now is we're going to pop it on straight onto our board, onto our bench, and roll it a little bit into a sausage, because this is going to help us with the portioning. Going to get us as even as we can portions. And it's also fun. And cooking's going to be fun, right? We're going to have a good time, otherwise why are we bothering? Alright, so we've created our sausage, as you can see. And all we need to do now is to portion it out. Oh, there we go. But before I do that, what I am going to do is, where have I put it? Baking sheet, where are you? I don't know where the baking sheet is. Oh, here it is, in a sec. We're going to line our baking sheet, which is there. And we're going to be lining it with non-stick baking paper, of course. I'm using a little bit of this cooking spray. I don't use it for cooking, I use it as glue. That's the only reason I own this. It lasts me about 6 months usually. I use it as glue. For me it's not even food, it's just nasty stuff. But it makes really good glue, because you kind of want your baking paper to stick to your baking sheet. And that's the best way to do it, is just to add some glue. So yeah, I should put a label on that and just call it glue, because that's pretty much what it is. All right, so back to our log or our sausage. We're going to get 12 biscuits out of this. They're about that big. So the best way to do it when we're wanting to portion into 12, hence why I've rolled it out into a log, is you just want to cut it in half first. And we're just going to work with half at a time. And then we're going to cut this half into thirds, like that. And then we're going to cut the other half into thirds. And then what we kind of have there is 6 pretty evenly sliced pieces. Now with those 6, we're then going to break them in half, obviously. And by breaking them in half, we now have 12. It's just one of those little tricks, and it's just, because unless there's nothing wrong with you having uneven sized cookies, because, these are homemade. You don't have to have them perfect. And in fact, they won't be perfect, because even with my method, it's still not foolproof, is it? But at the same time, you do get a pretty even ability to get even sized cookies out of it. Biscuits out of it. Biscuits, because it's an English it's an English biscuit recipe. So I'm rolling each portion now into a ball. The best way to do that is to put it in the palm of your hand, and then using your opposing palm, not applying any pressure, just gently rolling them together, and then they go onto the baking sheet. And we're just going to make sure when it comes to these that we are spacing them evenly apart, because we're going to squash them just a little bit flat. Okay, so those now looking good. And it's just a nice opportunity, like I said, if you've got kids, kids love baking, right? It's just, it was one of the first things that I learned to do when I was growing up in the kitchen. It was one of the first things actually I was allowed to do, was to bake. My sister Louise, she was the baker in our house. She was amazing. I always thought, no, one day I might be as good as my big sister Louise. She's just still an incredible baker. And so she would allow me sometimes to come into the kitchen and bake with her. But you know, it's just one of those really, you know, memorable things as a kid is what biscuits did you make or what cookies did you make? And I never made ginger nuts, never. But gosh, they're one of my favorite. I think the reason why I love ginger nuts so much is that ability for them to be able to crunch. You know, that wonderful crunch that you get. It's not only a wonderful crunch, but it's also dunkable. So you can have your cup of tea and you can dunk these into it, and oh, it's so good. It is so fantastic. All right, so we're nearly there with our rolling. Like I said, it's around about even, yeah? Around about even, pretty good. You could, like, if you're really kind of OCD about these sort of things, what you could do is you could weigh off the dough, the whole dough, and then divide it by 12. And then you just weigh it off. If you're really, like if you're going on MasterChef or, you know, the Great Australian or the Great British Bake Off or the Great New Zealand Bake Off, you could literally weigh the log, divide it by 12, and then portion it out exactly. But you know what? These are going to be eaten at some point today by myself and the family. So we don't have to worry too much. Right. So now that they're at this point, we're going to take a spatula. Take a spatula and squish it down just a little bit. And you're looking for around about a 5 centimeter, which is, I think it's about 2 inches diameter, once you squash. And if you find that when you're doing this, that it crumbles away, just do a bit of surgery, you know, just sort of go, hey, you know, you need to be there. Because just a little piece fell off, that's right, just do a bit of surgery, so give it a bit of a squash. And while you're squashing, don't squash too heavy. And oh, see, a bit of surgery. We had a piece of caramel fall out. Don't want that. We want all that caramel to be attached to that biscuit. Oh gosh. Okay, so when the reason why I'm not squashing them completely is because now that they're squashed to, you know, sort of, I'll show you, about that size, yeah, which is about 5 centimeters. Once they're squashed to that size, I am then going to put them into the oven. The oven is set on 170 degrees Celsius, which is 340 degrees Fahrenheit. And I have the shelf, place the rack in the middle of the oven, because these need to go into the middle of the oven. And these are going to go into the oven for 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, I'm going to come back to my spatula and I'm going to squash them again. They're going to be a lot easier to squash. And the reason why we're squashing them, like once again, not, you know, just not too firm, just a bit of a squash. The reason why we're squashing them is because those edges are going to get lovely and crunchy, which is what we want. So 5 minutes, we bring them out, we give them another bit of a squash, and then we put them in for a further 15 minutes, so a total of 20 minutes. But because I'm not so sure of my oven, it's a brand new oven that I'm using, I'm going to have a look at them in about 15 minutes just to make sure that they're not getting too dark, just until I get used to the oven. So I would definitely suggest with you as well, depending on how hot or how cool your oven is, set your timer for 5 minutes, give it a squash. Set your timer for 10 minutes after that, and just take a little bit of a look. And then you'll get to know whether you need to add 5 minutes more or not. So those are going to go over to the oven now. Alright. And what I'd like to show you, I'm going to pinch a bit of a wipe. I've got a rubbish bin right here, so I can literally just go like that. Isn't it? I'm not putting it on the floor. It's going into the bin. If you're wondering, it's actually going into the bin. Isn't that great? Alright. So, you know what I've done? You know what I've done? You know what I've done. In this tin here. And this tin, actually this tin was the last time I went to France. This tin was full of bickies, and I bought it from France. So in this tin, I have some that I had prepared earlier. Oh, this smell when you open the tin. Look at that. They are fabulous. All right, I'm going to get one out so you can really see the caramel. So there you have it. And you see that? that is caramel. So what happens is the caramel kind of explodes out the top. Oh, look at this one. Can you see the explosion of caramel? It is wonderful. Now, the big test. Does it crunch? Are you ready? Does it crunch? Because that is a test when it comes to ginger nuts. If there's no crunch, it's not a ginger nut, it's a ginger biscuit. We want a ginger nut and we want it to crunch. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. I'm nervous. No, I'm not. I'm not nervous. One thing I must say before I try them, I forgot to say, very important. When they are that color, yeah, you're bringing them out of the oven. You then allow them to cool completely before you eat them, because if you eat them straight out of the oven, they're not going to crunch. They actually harden up as they're sitting there on a wire rack. So you can just leave them on the tray on a wire rack so that the air is able to circulate, and they will harden up so that they sound like this. Oh. I'm happy. Oh. Mahey, do you want one? Oh, wow. Huh. Surprise, surprise. Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So there you go. Housewarming. Because it warmed my house. It warmed my heart. It was the first thing I baked in my kitchen. The first thing I baked in my kitchen. They are crunchy. They are spiced. They have little pockets of caramel in there. But the best part is, this is one of those healthy treats. And I spoke about this yesterday on our Q&A Fridays, about how it's, you know, how we have a tendency, hormonally, men and women, to reach for unhealthy snacks when we're stressed out or when we're overtired, when we're not in a good place. We have a tendency to reach for unhealthy snacks. Now imagine you had something like this in your pantry, ideally in a tin. I do like tins. I do. Honestly, I do. Can I show you my tins? There's tins up there. There's tins up there. And there's even tins on that side too. I love tins. Like, I collect antique tins. So that's what I love. And I reckon cookies and biscuits and Christmas cake taste better when it's stored in a tin. But yes, having something like that means that I'm reaching for this when I'm feeling a little bit, you know, a bit stressed out, as opposed to reaching for something that's really bad for my body. Gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free, grain-free, egg-free. All the frees except not flavor-free. It's got so much flavor in here. I'm gonna make a cup of tea now. And I'm gonna eat my cookie. Sorry, my biscuit. And I just want to say thank you for joining me. I look forward to all the amazing things that we get to cook together in my new kitchen. There's all these different spaces that I can show you around the house that we can cook and we can create and we can look after our bodies. So to anyone who has watched me for the first time, thank you for joining me. To all you wonderful people who have been following this journey, thank you as well. Alright guys, take care, enjoy your weekend, and don't forget tomorrow Sunday I'll be posting the PDF version for you guys to download of my housewarming ginger nuts. Alright guys, take care, bye.